everyone has a system, whether you know it or not. And sometimes the word system is a weird word or a negative word or a boring word for some people. And it's like, no, you got up this morning, you had a system of how you prepared and brushed your teeth or showered or got dressed, and all your routine can be a system that helps you get ready. So in the context of pastoring, is you need systems to be able to make sure you follow up.
Welcome to Moving Mountains, a podcast where we get to celebrate together the wins that different churches and the church as a whole have experienced. I'm Pam Flannery, and each month I get the amazing opportunity to talk with church leaders from all over the country, hearing the innovative and creative ways they're reaching their communities through the struggles and the wins in their ministry. Our hope is that you'll leave each episode with fresh ideas for your ministry, as well as the tools to put that plan into action so that you can impact your community further. Let's move mountains.
Hi, my name is Pam Flannery. I lead our customer communities at Pushpay. Thank you for joining us. I'm excited to introduce our guest today, John Broadhead, Senior Executive Pastor with Village Church in Vancouver, Canada. Pastor John joined the Village Church team in 2015 after over 31 years in the corporate world. First as an engineer in the space technology firm, MDA, followed by a vice president with Roland Music Company. Parallel to this, John was leading worship, touring, and speaking at workshops and seminars in the United States, Canada, and in the UK. John and his wife, Donna Lee, were part of the original core team of 16 that planted Village Church in 2010. So he considers it a privilege to be able to now focus full-time on the mission of seeing people transformed into fully devoted followers of Jesus. Together, they have 2 married daughters, 4 granddaughters, and a grandson. John, welcome. It is such an honor to have you as our guest today. We'd love to hear about your journey from space technology, which is fascinating to me, at MDA to the music and performance world at Roland, and now as an executive pastor. And how did all that prepare you for what you're doing currently?
Yeah, thank you, Pam. Such a privilege to be able to talk to you today. And it has been quite a journey. God takes us on the journey that you don't ever expect. Yeah, it's been quite an interesting journey that has taken, I'm using journey a lot right now, but it really is.
The journey.
It is. That moves us into really what we say, such a time as this. And everything I have done up to now, and I can say that through my life, all the previous work and experience prepares you for what you're supposed to do now. So yeah, taking the complexities of systems and solutions and solving problems that haven't been solved before in the engineering world, prepare me a certain way. And then moving into more of the product development and marketing and branding side with Roland, the music company, and so many lessons learned there. And parallel to that, working and as a musician and performance and what have you, it just led me into this church position where I'm using all of that. We're a fairly large church, so you need all of those skills, and that's how God led me here. So that's important. God takes your experience, no matter what it is, and reuses it or even redeems it for his purposes.
That's great. Tell us about your role as a senior executive pastor at Village. I know you probably wear a lot of hats, and just kind of share, what does your day look like? What does that role look like each day for your church and your staff and you personally?
Yeah, it's certainly multifaceted. From any one day, you could be working on strategy and discipleship points. You can be working with finance. At this point in time, we have auditors here auditing, so you're in some of those pieces. You can be culture, staffing things, all the way to projects where we have a building project in process. So I'm a project manager on a construction that's not started yet, or it's at a prayer breakfast, or it's meeting with someone in the city. Marriage counseling, I do that too, or doing the graveside for a funeral. Every day is different, and there's going to be spiritual and practical elements all the way to talking to consultants about theater design. I'm not leading that in my position, but certainly speaking into it and helping us as a whole organization, which we can talk about later too, is how do we deal with technology in the best way possible, and how can you help it actually disappear so it's not driving you, you're using it as a tool.
Oh, I like that, what you just said. How does it disappear? Do you mind? You want to bunny hop really quick on that? I like that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think whether it's, leading worship is a classic example in the creative spaces. If in your space people are distracted by all of the accoutrements of performance, then you've probably pushed that technology side too far. So if you use it well, it just all contributes to this beautiful time of corporate worship together, meeting God, where 1 and 1 doesn't equal 2 anymore. It's like these little pieces coming together with the Holy Spirit's power makes it an incredible time in the presence of God. Or if you're not using it right, or it's too much, it can be completely distracting. That's a real simple example, but you can take that into even how we manage people in the church as you get larger. But even in, smaller to mid-sized churches, you have hundreds of people, even 200-300 people, how you are using technology to help you not forget about them, to help you not drop the ball, where before technology, you're writing paper notes to yourself, but you're able to, you're writing down things in books and all that before. Well, now you can actually help manage a lot more things because technology helps you do that.
It's very good. Really, some great key points you shared. Thank you. Appreciate that. Well, according to the Hartford Institute of Religious Research, the United States has more than 1,500 megachurches. I think it's probably a little bit more. And Canada has approximately 35 megachurches with a consistent weekly attendance of around 2,000 or more. Village is among those 35 churches. I know you guys are, if not the fastest or the largest church in Canada, but can you talk about the beginning of Village Church, and then having worked in both Canada and the US, what are some of those differences?
Parallel to working in all of the couple careers I've had there before coming on board here, we were part of the core team that planted Village Church back in 2010. So we started meeting in our living room or family room in 2009. And as far as we're concerned, we're here. Church has always been part of our life. We'll help while we can, but we're doing lots of other things too. And in my case, we were deciding whether to actually move to LA or not. So that was in 2010. We just started it. And our goal was to get to 200 people in 2 years, which is amazingly successful for a Canadian church to be that size, that fast. But so we started in a gym and 100 people, and it grew the first year a little bit. And then some things happened where I can talk about some of the things we focused on, but ultimately it's the Holy Spirit blowing across something and a work. And we grew very, very rapidly to, I think we hit our first 1,000 in a year and a half or so. And then it's been on and on in a ride since then, to multiple locations now, and even a national multi-site where we have sites in different cities. I mean, it's just an amazing work of God. It's marriage is being transformed. We were just hitting the hard subjects, addictions, being overcome. Just a real practical, everyday work of God, and certain things we did focus on, but the real differences, I think, between the countries, it really is the culture, where it's really very much post Christian, where people just don't ever attend church for any reason. Weddings, funerals, all the rest. Those aren't in churches typically anymore. They're on the beach or in a backyard or something. No problem there. It's just people have zero exposure to who God is, to who Jesus is, to the church. So we're very much in that post-Christian world, where often people reached in the past, coming to faith, had some residue of Christianity in their past, with their grandparents taking them to church or Sunday school, or maybe their parents. But that's long gone in Canada. That's the challenge.
Yeah, that's a huge challenge and a huge cultural shift. So what do you believe has contributed to the growth with all these challenges that you face? Because you are growing fast. And over the past 14 years, you're not only growing, but you have large communities all over Canada. What do you think has been the biggest contributors to that?
Yeah, I think it has shifted over the whatever we're at now into our 14th year, 13 years as of January. Initially, it was really just, really speaking bluntly and hard hitting to the people we were trying to reach. And so initially we went after, at least in our area, in the Vancouver area, was a real challenge where guys were not part of churches. They're not interested in Jesus, not interested in religion, and we weren't selling religion. We're talking about a relationship with Jesus, and so that worked well for us. Just going after guys, because we had a lot of situations where the people that were coming to church were women just with bringing their kids. Sometimes the women would have a Christian experience earlier in their life. In fact, one of the classic examples of what we went for was the girl who grew up in the church, went to youth group, made a confession of faith, left, went to college, kind of deconstructed faith, met a great guy, and then they have their first child, and then they have the discussion about what should we do about, quote, religion. And she goes back with the kids and he goes and golfs or watches football Sunday. That's kind of one, product and branding and marketing experience, to use some words people don't like to use with the church. And it's not a business, it's not all that, but it's just very practical ways to go, who are we trying to reach and how are we trying to reach them? And you have to profile that. Now that's evolved over time, and really the growth, it actually grows into discipleships and community and connection, and know that people can't do anything on their own. You shouldn't do anything on your own. You can't do things on your own in terms of life and challenges and problems and ups and downs. You need to do that in community. So now we're very much focused both on the teaching and the evangelism, but tying that very closely with making sure you're connected in a community, in specifically small groups. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like small groups is what has made the biggest impact in Canada, or what is it about Village Church that makes the impact that you guys do?
Primarily, it's been a communication style about just going after topics and talking about things in a way that churches don't often talk about them. It's just really being careful of our language, like just not talking in a language no one understands, and Christians can be guilty of that. We have our own speak, devos and things like no one knows what that means. Right. So but we just kind of get in. So I think we fight hard to not go into ourselves insular, and it's after 12 13 years, it's hard to not just get comfortable as a church, because it's great, it's community, it's people, it's fellowship, it's even, that's another word, fellowship. No one uses the word fellowship, other than Lord of the Rings or something. So I think it really is the way we've tried to talk about faith and relationship with Jesus, and it not being a religion, not by it being do's and don'ts. And then, yes, making sure people are connected, then serving and in groups is been the strategy for sure.
Oh, that's so good.
As church leaders, you want to do everything you can to engage with each person that walks through your doors and encourage their spiritual growth. But connecting with your members isn't easy, and knowing where they are in their faith journey is even more challenging. Data and insights can help to cultivate deeper connections with your church community. That's why we've developed our CHMS and donor management tools. From helping a new member take the next step in joining your church, to making it easy for someone to start serving in your church. Allow your members to more easily connect with you, because in the end, it's that connection that creates community and helps you further His kingdom.
You said to me when we were in a conversation, you said you have to track in order to pastor. There's nothing admin about our software. It's connection for effective ministry. How do you track in order to pastor? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think it really comes to, again, back to this topic of using technology, looking for the technology to serve you. So sometimes I would hear and have heard staff talk about, well, I'm not good at admin. And sometimes they're referring to responding and getting back to people, or using the quote software to be on top of certain things. And because some people, when they use a computer or use a screen with a checkbox or a click box or something, they call it administration. And it's not at all. It's pastoring. And part of this is not letting people fall through the cracks. And
Right.
as you get larger, you need a tool to help you do that. And either everyone has a system, whether you know it or not. And sometimes the word system is even, or management or something is a weird word, or a negative word, or a boring word for some people. And it's like, no, you got up this morning, you had a system of how you prepared and brushed your teeth, or showered, or got dressed, and put your socks and shoes. And, all your routine can be a system that helps you get ready. So in the context of pastoring, is you need systems to be able to make sure you follow up. So in this case, in some of our cases, we use Pushpay, or the package, to be able to connect with people. So that first time person connecting, we've never printed a bulletin, for example. I'm not sure if this is directly, but I think it's directly tied to how we manage. So everything we do is to a text number, to a QR code, a link, or whatever, that's capturing that person's name and putting it into a system, a queue to be followed up with. So they're never dropped. And Pastor, in the days of old, the pastor would go down in the lobby, right, and talk to people, say hello, oh, we want to meet together. They'd have a little book they'd write names in, right, to follow up with.
Yeah,
So all we've done is replace the little book with a digital little book. But the important part for us is more than the pastor has visibility to it if we need to. And so we can see, oh, that one hasn't actually been followed up on. And it's not about policing. It's for their own purposes. Oh yeah, man, it totally slipped my mind. I need to follow up on that. And if they happen to forget, then there's a backstop where someone else can see, oh, there's been 6 days since this request. Let's get back to that person. And then it also helps delegating very easily to assign that follow-up with someone else on your team.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of Pushpay processes. We started using it years ago at the church where I was on staff. I'm like, my gosh, how did I do ministry without this? Because you're right, it was more of a follow through, and everything had your check boxes written down. You create a process for all this type of connection and follow up. It's a powerful tool. So I'm glad you guys are using that feature. Part of connection is serving. You've talked about that. Share the philosophy of Village Church regarding serving.
It's a critical part of your discipleship. They're actually part of their discipleship growth, getting to be, developed more. Our mission is to see people transformed into fully devoted followers of Jesus. So that's a lifetime journey. You don't arrive there at all, and you never do until the day you die. But we try our best to be fully transformed, knowing that we won't fully be transformed until we're changed ultimately when we see him face to face. It really is with our leaders, even to invest in the people that are serving on your team, whether that's on a Sunday, whether it's a local kind of mission. And so you're in their lives. You're not scheduling them and thanks for doing the parking. It's very much part of discipleship to serve. And so one of the ways, and this, you're talking about what contributed to our growth, and some of it was the hard language we use with people. So we'd actually say to people, and I'd challenge anyone listening, is if you're part of a church and you're not serving in some way, it's like, what are you doing there? Now, if you're new and you're investigating Christianity, you're checking things out, take the time you need. But we would say, okay, if you're called here, you're not just going to the next shiny thing, and you've been here more than 2 or 3 weeks, you need to step up and serve today. And if you don't, or you can't, then you need to leave, because you're taking a seat up on the bus, because you're just a consumer at that point. And we'd find it with that challenge, we would grow the next week because people responded to that push to believe in something, to be excited about something, and to be challenged that way. Now, people are all sorts on that spectrum, from investigating Christianity to all the way to committed. But if you're in that, I'm on board, I'm committed, I'm that, then serving as a core to that whole, the whole part of your existence on earth.
How do you find, or what process do you take people on to find out where they should serve? What if they've never served before? How do they discover that there at your church?
I think the primary way is we encourage people to take a 4-module course. We call it This is Village Church, which has a lot of outputs on it, I guess you could say. Deals with things. Who are we? What are we about? What do we believe? Just to know you're on the right bus. So we do that. And then part of that course is learning how you're wired and how you're gifted. Again, we're not perfect, but we have ways in which you can apply or ask or talk to someone to see where you can fit. And then we try to guide you into that area. It's not all just Sunday stuff for sure. On a church side, when someone goes through the course, we follow up with them. Go, hey, we see you completed it. What do you want to do? If you've not been baptized, if maybe you want to be a member, if you're not serving yet, are you part of a group? Maybe Alpha is the route for you. We have this other healing discipleship thing, freedom session. So we try not to have a ton of programs. We try to be pretty focused, but it's really about that track, the process crew you're going through to make sure you're not dropped, in the process. If you're still interested, some people just disappear and you can't do anything about that other than follow up and text and email a few times. And then if they're not ready, sometimes they pop up a year later. You go, oh yeah, a year ago, you actually finished that. So let's follow up. You have no idea what happened in their life. And that's a great pastoral moment to be able to call them and talk to them and see what's been happening.
Yeah, it sounds like you're using process as well. So that's great to hear.
Trying, yes.
Yes, you are. I can tell. You and I talked about the power of donor management. So I'm going to switch gears here a little bit.
Sure.
And contagious generosity. As you shared, I got excited. I was like, you have contagious generosity. So would you share with our audience what you shared with me and why both are so important? Why is it important to have not only donor management, but contagious generosity in a church?
Yes, that's certainly part of what we're trying to develop in our church family, is this idea of generosity that is seen by the community, by other church people, by the city. And we're in no way where we'd like to be, but we've certainly made some progress there, because as people see generosity, it is contagious. They want to be part of it. But also when people drop off, it's a great opportunity for checking in. Not, hey, you dropped off your giving, but often there's something else going on. Maybe they're getting ready to leave. So when you see people that haven't given, they have given consistently, but they now aren't after 60, 90 days, there's an opportunity to connect with them. How are you doing? Maybe there's a sickness. Maybe they lost a job. Maybe they have a problem with the church and they're mad. Maybe they moved away or are moving away. Anyway, all of those are opportunities to be able to touch base and have a very pastoral moment with them. So those are a couple processes and steps that we have in managing donors at that level.
So good. I know that Village Church uses all of Pushpay features. Like you said, throughout this podcast, process is a big one for you. Would you talk about some of those processes you've created for donor management? You shared a couple just now, the impact that made, but do you have a process that is first time giver or second time giver or 1 year follow-up? Would you mind sharing a few of those?
Yeah, no, there are different processes for donor management. It starts even very mechanical at front end, is like a credit card expired. We're following up or texting someone, not the next day, but hey, this transaction hasn't been going through because your card expired. Would you like us to update that on your behalf or help you do that? Or you can click this link and do it yourself. That's super simple, mechanical. You wouldn't believe how much of that happens. And if you're not following up on that, you're leaving money on the table, frankly,
Yeah.
because some people don't really follow their credit card statements or what's failing, or either emails going to spam or whatever. So it starts simple there, all the way up through to large giver processes. So another process is first time giving, where we try to ideally within 24 hours have some kind of personalized response if possible, just to know they're appreciated and thank you for stepping up. Second time, that's a great indicator. When there's a second gift, that's a follow-up of thanks. There's one, we call it at risk, meaning they are perhaps at risk of leaving. Something's going on that's changed the pattern. And then even larger gifts. If you give a larger gift of 10 or 20 or $50,000, those all have different process and steps and people that's assigned to them, all the way to the senior pastor or a senior level leader like myself, or to giving them a call or having a lunch and talk to me about what's working, what's not. And then over time, relationships build, of course, where you know that person, and that's where the generosity comes from, and the contagiousness comes is as the vision grows and the excitement grows and the giving grows, because it's to something. It's going to be something that makes a difference. It's a good investment. So as a result, we actually try to tie impact to giving. This is not what you asked me, but it's an important part that we go on and on about, is how you talk about giving in a newsletter, in an email, and even on Sundays or Saturday nights, your service times. Is that what frustrates me, is spending too much time on how to give. You have to be living under a rock to not know how to give to an organization. Go to their website, there'll be a give button or donate button on there. So that's not the mechanics of how to do this. Is not, you want to make it easy. So I'm not saying that's not important, but that shouldn't be your giving moment. It should be impact. What's happening in your church? You did this. For us, it's like we just got 10 alphas into a prison, courses going on with the Remand Center. We've got this happening with our youth retreat, and these many kids were baptized. And this is just what happened with one of our partners, Convoy of Hope, what happened with the earthquake in Turkey and what's happening there. And you're talking to people about that on a Sunday. And then the last 10 seconds of all that impact stuff is, and this is what happens when you give. Your dollar when you gives does this kind of thing. Isn't that awesome? Boom, literally 10 seconds about the mechanics, and spend 2 minutes or a minute on the why and the what. And so even a couple times a year, put it on an impact report. So when you're investing in the church, you should see a return on that for the kingdom, an impact. If you're not getting an impact from that organization you're supporting, then don't give to it. So we try to, this isn't like a membership fee at a country club where you get to be served and entertained. This is an investment in the eternity and in the kingdom, and changed lives, church planting, moving people ahead, introduce them to Jesus. So that's where we start. And then we try not to drop any balls with anyone who's giving any amount, first time all the way to large gifts, have some kind of connection with them to keep that, being thankful that they're continuing to give and making a difference.
What would you personally say to pastors regarding financial stewardship? I know you've shared a lot of such helpful information, but if you were to stand before pastors right now and say, let's talk about financial stewardship, what would you say to them?
I think right up there would be, are you modeling generosity in your way? Yes, generosity does involve money. So are you modeling before God? Not for your admin person that knows how much you give. No, modeling before God a sacrificial level of giving. Now that's sacrificial is a different word for many people. So in your way, is there a generosity? Because as you go and as you lead, so goes the church. So if you're not modeling it, or your staff aren't, then you can't ask the church to. That's, by the way, that's one thing we do here, is every staff has to give. We don't care how much. Just more, really low standard here, Pam, more than zero.
I love it.
More than zero.
Low standard.
So, we're not forcing or requiring or going after people for percentage. No. It's like, and it's not a condition of employment. It's a condition of being a Christian.
Yeah.
Is that you give to your local church. So I think the number one thing would be to model, and this isn't a paid advertisement. Use a system that helps you not be dumb, with people and look like you're inept or not, don't have it together. Use the God-given brains of people and developers and Christian organizations that help you do a better job at managing the finances and really tracking people's progress in your church and their discipleship journey. We need to serve our church and our people as best we can as they, and in fact, as we all then pursue Jesus in this life. So.
Well, John, thank you so much. I can't tell you. I think this is one of the most vital topics that needs to be spoken about in the church. And who better than you? I love what you've done at, Village Church. I love that you wear all these hats and you stay passionate about everything that you do. And I really appreciate how you shared today just how important it is to weave those messages through and how this is part of who we are as believers. So I hope that pastors all over the country, in Canada, America, and everywhere else, hears this message and begins to implement just a stewardship, a financial, I don't know. I just think being able to share that it's important for you to give. It's who we are as believers. It's not anything to shy away from, but it's something to share passionately with and walk alongside people. And I love the processes that you've created for so many different, whether first-time givers or large givers or people who've fallen off giving. You have created some beautiful processes. So thank you. And thank you for what you're doing in the kingdom.
Thank you, Pam. It's been great to be with you.
This has been Pushpay's Moving Mountain podcast, real talk from church leaders about overcoming challenges and growing their ministries. If you'd like to learn more about Church Stack or any of the features mentioned in our podcast, visit us at pushpay.com. Make sure you subscribe so that you can get notified whenever a new episode comes out. You don't want to miss out on any of these great conversations with amazing people. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.